Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to everyone who's joining us online as well. I'm going to teach you breathing mindfulness meditation so you can learn the ins and outs of meditation. This way you'll be able to build up your practice because you see that as part of the path to enlightenment. It's an important aspect of the practice, but it's not the only thing. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment just by meditating, right? If you were even though you can't do this, but let's just say you were meditating 23 hours a day. If you went outside and you were bitter and harsh and hostile with people, you're not anywhere close to enlightenment, right? So the mind needs that moral conduct, the mental discipline, and of course the wisdom section to be able to build on top of. So meditation is important. You need to build up this practice. So now that you've had a chance to practice it with me up to about at least three times at this point, now you'll be able to learn the ins and outs of it. And just like always, you can ask questions if you like. So first, let's just talk about a few meditation basics, where this is just going to help you to understand some very basic things, like a definition of meditation. Meditation is a technique to actively train the mind during dedicated, independent, purposeful training sessions to eliminate unwholesome qualities of the mind and or cultivate wholesome qualities of the mind in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. So this is the way that I think about meditation, but other people might have other definitions for it, but at least when I say the word meditation, you'll know what I'm talking about, which is this dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And you're doing this in one of the four positions: seated, lying, standing, or walking. And the reason why I share this definition up front is because oftentimes people nowadays might say, oh, I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate, or I'm going to go to the gym and meditate, or I'm going to go to take a drive and meditate. Well, if someone thought that that was meditation and they hear me recommend 2 or 3 meditations a day and they just went and walked the dog 2 or 3 times a day, they're not going to be able to get to enlightenment that way. While those things might be enjoyable and they might choose to do those things like exercising or gardening or walking the dog, that's not what meditation is. So it's this dedicated, active, purposeful training session that you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And there's 4 positions because the body can't be in the same position all the time. So there's these 4 different positions, and I'm going to explain them to you so you'll know how to use them in different times. Then it's important to understand that you need a meditation teacher. As you've learned already, there's only one type of person that can actually get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, and that's a Buddha. So you're going to need teachers. You're going to need guides to help you along the path. So it would be wise to have a meditation teacher. And I'll share an example with you so you can understand how important this is. There was an individual one time who was a doctor, and he was trying to get to enlightenment on his own. He was reading books, watching videos, meditating, stuff like this. And he was doing all of this in his home country. And after about 2 years, he got to a point where he couldn't work anymore. He was having obsessive thoughts. He was having suicidal thoughts. He was sleeping 23 hours a day. He was having difficulties in his relationships and all these different things. And for one reason or another, he decided to reach out, and he got some help from me. I started helping him while he was in his home country for a while, but his case was too challenging, and I recommended for him to come to Thailand. So he came to Thailand, he spent some time here, and he ultimately went back home. And over a period of about 4 to 6 years, he worked himself out of those problems, where he's back to work now. He's a practicing physician. He's not sleeping all those hours. He's not depressed. He's not suicidal. He's not having those obsessive thoughts. But for about 4 to 6 years, his life was really difficult. And that's just because he didn't realize that he needed a teacher. He was out there trying to do this on his own, not realizing that he's not able to do this on his own. So I don't suspect any of these things will ever happen for you because you understand it's important to have a teacher. But I just share this so that you understand how important it is, that you need somebody that you can reach out to and ask for help, because you can't ask a book questions, right? Nowadays, we're in this like self-help kind of like independent type environment where we have this self-service where you can learn how to bake cake by pulling up a YouTube video, or you can learn any number of things by pulling up a YouTube video. Getting to enlightenment isn't that way. You need somebody to help you. You're the one doing all the work. It's you or your own independent practitioner, but you need someone that you can reach out to and ask questions to. And whether you consider that person to be me or somebody else is up to you. That's your choice. But just know that you can always reach out, and I'm always here to help you. And there's no expectation of anything on my side. Like, I don't need to hear from you every day or every week or every month. It's up to you. But just know that at any point in your life, you're always welcome to reach out, and I'll be here to help you. So you'll need somebody to get help from. Okay. Then there's 4 positions to be able to meditate in. They're seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you can use these different positions at different times, and they have different purposes of why you might decide to use them. I'm going to share with you how I've used these and in what situations you could use them. But then you don't believe that. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself. And that's where you practice and see how these positions work for you. So seated position is you're either on the floor or in a chair. You can sit on a wheelchair, and a bench, a sofa, anywhere you would like to sit. There's not just one fixed way to sit. Oftentimes people will sit on the floor with cushions and their legs crossed, but there's any number of different ways you can sit. You would like your upper body to be erect because this helps to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. And it also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. This is kind of like the primary meditation position. Oftentimes people learn in this position, and most of their meditation is in this position. I would say probably more than 90% of my meditation has been in the seated position. So that's where oftentimes people will start learning, and they tend to meditate in that position quite a bit. But then when you're in the seated position, you might notice that the body has aches and pains. You might get like hip pain or back pain. And if you're noticing this, you can just adjust within your position. You can try to kind of adjust your position, because the last thing you're interested in doing is just breathing through the pain, right? If the body's experiencing pain, this is an indication to you, hey, there's something going on here. Take action, right? So if you can put just within that position, like make an adjustment, and that can help the body to feel comfortable, wonderful, do that. But if not, that's where the lying position comes in. You can lie down on the floor, face up with your arms out to the side. If you've done yoga, you probably know like resting pose or corpse pose or shavasana pose. These are all the same thing essentially, where you just lay on your back with your arms out to the side and face up. All your muscles will be completely relaxed, and you can meditate in this position. What you're doing with the mind is exactly the same. You're just changing the body position. So you can change within a meditation session. You don't have to just stay in one pose. You can adjust within one particular session if that's what you need to do. But in the seated and the lying position, sometimes you get drowsy and you kind of fall asleep, or the mind's, headed in that direction. And that's where the standing and walking position comes in. You can stand up, clasping your wrist in front of you, or putting your arms alongside or behind you. And again, you do the same thing with the mind. You're just standing up with your feet at about shoulder width. So you could do this as a way to kind of elongate your meditation session, where if you're noticing sleepiness, this will kind of help you to wake up and kind of invigorate the mind a little bit. I've also used the standing position at like a bus stop. If I was waiting for a bus and I knew it was going to be 10, 15 minutes or whatever, and there wasn't anywhere to sit. So I would just stand there and meditate. And I didn't consider this one of the 2 or 3 meditations per day that you would do, but it was like a little touch-up meditation. Even at like a government office, I've been at places where like you're in a line and it only moves like every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes. I would do like a little 5-minute meditation as I was waiting for the line to move forward. So that's an option for you to use it there as well, like a little touch-up meditation. And then walking meditation is also good for when your mind is sleepy and you like to invigorate the mind and do some walking. But it's also really helpful if you have an overactive mind, if you notice that you have a lot of repetitive thoughts and the last thing you're thinking about doing is sitting down to meditate because you can't be still. The mind just doesn't want to be still. The body needs to go. So walking meditation is good for that. So tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to teach walking meditation. It's very intentional walking, and it's something you're accomplishing the same goals as you do with breathing mindfulness meditation, but you're doing it differently. So I'll show you this tomorrow. So any questions on these meditation basics? No? Okay. So in terms of starting and conducting a meditation session, the mind is the boss, the body is the employee. What I mean by that is in order to get to the boss, you got to go through the employee. So if the body is painful, if the employee is painful, it's not going to take you to go see the boss. But if the body is luxurious, it's going to get lazy and lackadaisical and complacent. It's not going to take you to go see the boss. So you'd like the employee, the body, to be in the middle where it's comfortable. Then it'll take you to go see the boss so you can train the mind. So if you keep this in mind, that the body is the employee and the mind is the boss, now you know you need to go through the employee to get to the boss, so you'll make the body feel comfortable. Not painful, not luxurious, but comfortable. Then the Buddha teaches to set up mindfulness in front of you. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with the chanting, where when he gives his instructions on meditation, he says, set up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating. What he means is bring some awareness to the mind, that you don't just plop down into meditation and start meditating. And this is going to help you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So you would like to be doing that as you make your way into meditation. And if chanting works for you, great, you can use chanting. But if not, you could do something else, right? Maybe you go to the bathroom, empty out the organs. Some people like to do a little bit of yoga stretching and things like that. Whatever it is, just do something to bring some general awareness to the mind so you're not just plopping down into meditation. Then in terms of your time frequency and schedule, I'll ask you, is it possible to meditate at exactly the same time every day? No? Why? Yes. And what's that called? Yes, impermanence, right? So sometimes when people learn about things like this, they're like, oh, I'm going to meditate every day at 8 a.m. and they put it on their calendar, but then they get dissuaded when they can't do it. So you already know from the very beginning, you can't meditate at exactly the same time every day. It's not possible. You'll see sometimes people will make YouTube videos or a web page or a book, and they'll say you have to meditate every day at 3:30 a.m. Right? And this is what they'll suggest. Well, it's not possible to meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day. And there's nothing special happening at 3:30 a.m. that's going to make your meditation any better or any worse. So it would be unwise to meditate or attempt to meditate at exactly the same time every day, because you already know that you can't do it. Right? And the Buddha didn't meditate at 3:30 a.m. every morning in order to get to enlightenment, so you don't either. And the reason why I know the Buddha didn't meditate at 3:30 a.m. every morning is because watches didn't even exist 2,500 years ago. They couldn't keep accurate time at that time frame. So you don't have to meditate at one specific time in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. It does share in the original teachings of the Buddha that the Buddha meditated 3 times a day. Morning, midday, and evening. These are the 3 times that he meditated. So essentially you would like to have anchor points, that somewhere in the morning, you'd like to meditate, somewhere in the evening you'd like to meditate. And if you can get a middle of the day meditation, then great. One meditation a day isn't going to get you to enlightenment, but 2 meditations, you'll make your way to enlightenment through 2 meditations a day. If you can get a 3rd one in, you're going to see that things are going to improve for you much more readily. So somewhere in the morning and evening, you'd like to be meditating. And if you're going to meditate in the evening, you'd like to do it before you get sleepy. If you normally go to bed at like 10 o'clock, you'd like to be meditating like 9:15. But that doesn't mean you can't meditate at 4 or 5 or 6, because you surely can. It's just that knowing that your mind needs to be attentive and alert, because it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. If you wait until 10 o'clock to meditate and you're already sleepy, the mind's not attentive at that point. So you would like to be sure that your mind is attentive and alert. So morning, evening, great times to meditate. And if you can get one in the middle of the day, that's great. You'd like to slowly build up to 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. Understanding this can take 6 months, 12 months, even 2 years to build up to. You're not in a race with anyone. There's no competition. It's your practice. So you just gradually build up. What you'll notice is frequency is more important than duration. So if it's a matter of 1 meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, the 2 for 15 is actually more beneficial for you because you're kind of hitting the mind more frequently throughout the day. So you would like to build up to 2 or 3 per day. And if you're doing 15 or 10 or even 5 or 1 minute, because when I first started meditation, I could only do 1 minute. My mind couldn't do more than that. There was too much congestion here. So you just start wherever you can start, and then you just gradually build it up from there. In terms of keeping time for your meditation sessions, I don't suggest you use an alarm if you don't need to. I think you work for yourself, so you're probably not in a hurry to get to work. There's no boss that's waiting for you. But let's just say somebody was working for a boss, right? And they only had 20 minutes to meditate. Well, maybe you set your alarm, right? But usually what's happening when you set your alarm is you're going to be in meditation and you're going to be thinking, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? This is the mind craving. Or you're going to be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefit, and then your alarm's going to go off. And you're going to be like, I wish I wouldn't have set my alarm, right? So what I suggest you do is you look at the time before you start meditating, and you're like, 9 a.m. And then you meditate, and then when you're done, you look at the time again. 9:15. Okay, I meditated for 15 minutes. Next time, let me expand this a little bit longer, right? That's the way you would like to be able to do that. And kind of, you can check in on that like once a week. Even now, I still check in on my meditation like once a week, because 5 minutes of meditation can kind of seem like an hour sometimes, but an hour of meditation can seem like 5 minutes. So you would like to kind of check in like about once a week and just make sure you're kind of making your way towards this 30-minute session. That's where you'll notice the real benefits in your meditation. Then if you notice sleepiness during your meditation, you have two options. One, you could change positions, right? You could switch to a standing position or a walking position. That's a possibility. Or you could just get some rest. Because what you're going to notice is even if you're sleeping 8 hours a day or however long you're sleeping, when you start meditating, your mind's starting to perform better and it's starting to get what it needs, and it's going to have more of a tendency to sleep potentially. So you kind of have this 3 months, 6 months hump to be able to get over, where when you're meditating, you might feel more sleepy, and even during your day, you might feel more sleepy because the mind is starting to perform better. And it's like, wow, thank goodness, like this is like a dry sponge. The mind's finally getting what it needed all these years. So you might notice this sleepiness. So you could either just change positions or you could just get some sleep. There were times where I would sit down to meditate. I'd be 3-5 minutes into the meditation. I'd be like, all right, I'm too sleepy. I'm just going to rest. And I would take a nap, wake up 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour later, and then I would just meditate at that point. So you could do it like that as well. You might notice physical sensations during your meditation. This is like itching, right? And if you notice this, and the mind has this urge to itch, this can be from a craving for the body to be permanently comfortable, where the mind's in meditation and it knows it wants to itch, and now it'll itch, and then another itch and another one and another one. It's just like a craving, almost like an obsessive thought. So what you would like to do is when you notice that itch, don't itch it. But then if you get into that 5-8 seconds and you just have this really strong urge to itch it, okay, go ahead and itch it. But then try to expand that. Try to make it 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 15 seconds on the next one. And then on the next one, try to make it a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And then eventually you'll be able to go through the whole life cycle of that itch, because you know it's impermanent, that it's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. And now your mind can be unaffected by that itch. You might notice visual stimulation during your meditation. This is like you might see colors, like some people see green, yellow, purple, white. Some people have like vivid images, right, where they kind of see things, even with their eyes closed. Sometimes people contact me and they think that they're like, David, does this mean I'm special because I saw the yellow purple, or the color yellow or the color purple? I'm like, no, it doesn't mean you're special. It doesn't mean my boyfriend or girlfriend's going to come back to me. It doesn't mean I'm going to get rich. What does it mean seeing these colors when I'm meditating? So I'll explain to you what this means. It doesn't mean any of those kinds of things. What's happening is that sight occurs inside the brain. So the eye itself is just a lens that pulls in the light. But when your eyes are closed, you can actually still see some things. You can still have images because the sight is occurring inside the brain. When you're training your mind with meditation, you're training the mind, which is non-physical. The brain is the physical organ. These are two different things. There's a connection between the two. So when you're training your mind and cleaning up the mind, it has an effect to the brain. The physical structures of the brain actually change. Doctors and researchers and scientists are studying this because nowadays we have MRIs and CAT scans and other devices that can measure this kind of stuff, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they couldn't. So they're researching these types of things, and they can see that the physical structures of the brain are changing. And when your brain is changing, the doctors are saying this is like really beneficial. It's like really improving the functioning of the brain, where we talk about it through the mind. So when these physical structures are changing, it can produce these colors and images that you're seeing. In fact, I used to walk around with a lot of pressure in my skull. I used to get migraine headaches a lot, even vomiting sometimes. After training my mind this way, I don't have that anymore. There's no pressure in the skull. There's no migraine headaches, none of that kind of stuff. So you might experience these kinds of things. I even used to hear it changing inside the skull. It was like, I could hear it while I was meditating, and I could feel the pressure releasing out of the head. So you might notice this kind of thing happening as you're training your mind. And it's just completely normal. And you'll go through a period of time where all those changes will occur, and then everything will be completely fine. The mind will be stable and steady. So if you're noticing this kind of stuff, you don't have to worry or understand that it's impermanent, because sometimes people get all these pleasant feelings when these changes are happening. But just remind yourself it's not permanent, that these things are normal. Then sometimes people are taught to meditate with external stimulus. What I mean by this is like beads or incense or candles or phone apps, things like this. If you've been taught to meditate that way, and that's what you're meditating with now, that's okay. That's what got you to where you are today. But you would like to strip all of that stuff out of your meditation practice, because it's just the mind is going to get attached to it. It's just going to hold on to it. You would like to just meditate with three things, and you'll have these three things with you all the time for the rest of this life. You only need the body, the mind, and the breath. Those are the only three things that you need to meditate. The body, the mind, and the breath. And if you can strip out all these things and get your meditation practice to that point, what's wonderful about that is, like, say you're walking in a park with your life partner or even by yourself, and you're like, wow, it's really nice here. I'd like to meditate. Well, if you're attached to that special candle or the incense, you're like, oh man, I can't meditate. I don't have my special candle with me, right? But if you're meditating with the body, the mind, and the breath, it's like, sweet, I got all three things. Let me sit down and meditate. And you can really enjoy that experience. Or say you're on a trekking tour in the mountains of Chiang Mai and you're 3 days away from civilization. You could actually sit down and meditate in the forest, right? Because you don't need your phone app or your incense or your candle. You have everything you need, the body, the mind, and the breath, right? So you'd like to strip all that stuff away. And the best way to be able to do that is gradually, because then the mind doesn't even realize what you're doing. So let's just say someone was meditating with music, right? Now, what I would suggest they do is do one session with it and one session without it. One session with it, one session without it. Do that for like a week or two. Let the mind adjust to that. Then do one session with it, 2 or 3 without. One session with it, 2 or 3 without. And I'll do that for a week or two. Let the mind adjust to that. And then do one session with it, 3, 4, 5, 6 without it. So if you take these little incremental changes like this, the mind won't even know what you're doing. Because remember, it doesn't like change. It doesn't like impermanence. Even when you have the wisdom that impermanence exists in the world, the mind still isn't going to like it. Right? So if you make these little small incremental changes like this, you can bring something like this into your life. So if you're trying to get rid of something unwholesome, and you do this with small little incremental steps like that, gradually expanding it, it'll be a more sustainable change in your life. But you can also do it with wholesome things. If you're choosing to bring something wholesome into your life, if you do it in small little incremental changes, your mind will like that and appreciate it a lot more. So this is a more sustainable change for you to be able to do that kind of thing. So any questions on this stuff? No? Okay, let me see if we have any questions online here. Okay, I don't see any on YouTube. And we don't have any on Facebook. Okay, so now I'll share some words of the Buddha with you so you can see his teachings on meditation. These are the only 4 meditations that he ever taught. Right now, you'll see hundreds and thousands of meditations out there, but oftentimes those are leading people in the opposite direction of enlightenment, because the mind needs to be trained a specific way to be able to get to enlightenment. So if you understand these 4, this is the only 4 you ever need. So if you tried to learn 100 different meditations, your practice would be really broad. It wouldn't be very deep. And also, those meditations can oftentimes take your mind in the opposite direction of enlightenment. But if you focus on these, then you can get really deep with your meditation, become really proficient with it. So the Buddha was talking to his students about things before this. He was saying, these are things that you need to do in order to get to enlightenment. And then he said, having based himself on these 5 things, the monk should develop further another 4 things. And he's talking about these 4 types of meditations. And then here's where he's talking about breathing mindfulness meditation. He says, mindfulness of breathing mindfulness meditation should be developed to cut off thoughts. That's training your mind to let go. Cut it off and let it go. Because the mind's craving, desire, attachment, it wants to hold on and hold on and hold on. It doesn't know how to let go. So that's why in breathing mindfulness meditation, you're letting go. You're letting go. You're not letting go. You're not labeling the thought. You're not noting the thought. You're not observing the thought. You're not trying to figure it out. Anything and everything that comes up in meditation, even if it's a wholesome thought, you cut it off and let it go. Because you're training your mind to let go. It's like exercising the mind. But then in your day-to-day life, if there's anything that's wholesome that comes up, you don't need to cut that off. Like you're thinking of taking your mom out to dinner or lunch or something. You don't have to cut that off in day-to-day life. But in day-to-day life, you would like to cut off the unwholesome thoughts. So if there's anything unwholesome that comes up, that's what you cut off in your day-to-day life. So you're training your mind in one way, which is cut off everything and anything. And in day-to-day life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts. It's kind of like a professional athlete. They go into the gym. They might do weight training, cardiovascular training, agility training, but their sport looks very different, right? Maybe they're a pole vaulter, but their training in the gym looks completely different than what they do as their sport. So it's the same kind of thing, is that you're exercising your mind in one way, and then you're actually in day-to-day life doing something different, which is you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts in your day-to-day life. But in your meditation, you cut off anything and everything that's coming up. Okay, so that's what the Buddha is teaching you. And the reason why is because you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment. You're eliminating that longing, yearning. That's the unwholesome quality that you're eliminating with breathing mindfulness meditation. The wholesome quality that you're cultivating are mindfulness and concentration. That's what you're developing when you're practicing the breathing mindfulness meditation. So when your mind's on the breath, you're developing concentration. When it moves off the breath and you notice that, that's the mindfulness. And when you cut off and let go, that's eliminating the craving, desire, attachment, training the mind to let go. So you're doing this repeatedly 2 or 3 times a day. So if in your meditation, 10, 15, 20, 30 times, you have to let go, let go, let go. That's really good for you. That's training your mind to let go. You're not bad at meditation. It's just that your mind is being trained to let go. And that's really, really good. Okay. These other ones you'll learn at different times in the various programs that we have. This program, we just focus on this first one. This is the unwholesome quality that you're eliminating, and these are the wholesome qualities that you're cultivating. These are some words of the Buddha on meditation. He says, a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. The pot is the mind. The stand is your meditation practice. A mind without a meditation practice is easy to become discontent. Right? It's very easy for the mind to get angry and frustrated if you don't have a meditation practice. So a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. So right now, your pot might just be like on a little dowel rod, right? If you haven't been meditating much. But when you meditate, your stand becomes wider and wider and wider and wider. Right? And now your pot is more and more stable. The mind is more and more stable. So that's what the Buddha is guiding you to do. This is a teaching where the Buddha is explaining the goal of meditation, essentially the importance and the purpose of meditation. He says, monks, there is one thing that when developed and cultivated leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing. Breathing mindfulness meditation. This is that one thing that, when developed and cultivated, leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge, experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. So what he's saying is that there's one goal for this meditation. It's to get you to enlightenment. That's the only goal. If you're doing this meditation, that's what's going to lead to your enlightenment, along with all the other factors on the Eightfold Path. He's not saying you only need one thing to get to enlightenment, because otherwise he would have just taught meditation and that's it. It's kind of like saying your car, it leads to one thing, which is transportation. But you need more than transportation to live a good life. You need food, clothing, shelter, medical care. You need these kinds of things. But your car, it leads to one thing, which is transportation. So this meditation, it leads to one thing, which is peace, freedom from strong feelings, enlightenment. That's what it leads to, right? So that's the goal of this meditation. So you've already heard me guide people in meditation before, but this is the way that you basically are doing meditation, is that you're focused on the breath, either the sound or the sensation of the air. Anytime the mind moves off of that, you cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. Understand that your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. That's not the goal. Sometimes people think that's the goal. Even when you're enlightened, you will still have thoughts during your meditation. The difference is in the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts where it's like thought, 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 thought. Or you'll have a thought and you'll follow it. You'll indulge in it. You'll play with it. You'll look at it. And then 2 or 3 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. So that's what an unenlightened being experiences. An enlightened being, when they have a thought, they notice it, they cut it off and bring their mind right back to the breath. And then there's this quietness and stillness between their thoughts. Then they have another thought, they notice it, cut it off, bring their mind right back to the breath, and quietness and stillness in their mind, right? So that's the difference. So they're still going to have thoughts. Even when you're enlightened, you'll have thoughts. The goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to be able to notice them sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. That's what you would like to build up to. Okay? So any questions on this? No? Okay. So I'll just end with one thing, and then if you'd like to do meditation together, we can, which the Buddha shares, meditate, monks. Do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. So this is the only thing you'll ever see from the Buddha where he's like really encouraging you to like, hey, go do something, like go meditate. He's saying you're going to regret it later, because when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're agitated, when you have that stress and anxiety or guilt, shame, or fear, you'll regret having not meditated. So you would like to be able to gradually build up your practice and never give up. That's the way I would say this, is never give up. Don't allow the mind to become complacent. If you meditated twice a day for a month, that would be 60 meditations, right? Well, if you miss meditation today, that's not going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not, right? What's going to determine if you get to enlightenment is once you miss meditation, what are you going to do next? Are you going to let that be 1 week, 1 month, 1 year that you're not meditating? Yeah, you're not going to get to enlightenment. But if you miss meditation and you're like, I missed meditation. Well, I need to get right back on that. Let me meditate, right? And now you start meditating. You'll make your way to enlightenment, right? So if you get 52, 53, 54 meditations a month in, you'll make your way to enlightenment. It's only a matter of time. So don't put all this pressure on yourself that you have to meditate from this day forward, every single day, 2 times a day, because that isn't going to be possible because of impermanence, right? Your meditation practice is going to go like this, especially for a while, right? It's going to go up and down like this. So you don't need to put pressure on yourself, but just really be diligent and dedicated and don't ever give up, because giving up on meditation is basically like, well, I'm just going to be angry for the rest of my life. I'm just going to be stressed and have anxiety for the rest of my life, right? You're just kind of resigning yourself to that, where you're not interested in doing that. You would like to never give up. Even if you go 3, 4, 5 days without meditating, get right back into it. Get right back on it, right? And then just continue to build up your practice. Okay? All right. So would you like to meditate here, or would you like to do it on your own at home, or how would you like to do it? On your own? Okay, sure. So what I'll do then is I'll just end here by thanking you for your interest to learn. Thank you for everyone online who's joining as well. I will start tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm going to start with the 3 poisons. These are like the 3 high-level problems that are plaguing the mind, and we're going to talk about the solutions too. Because with the 4 noble truths, you get kind of like a little window into the mind, but now it's going to broaden your understanding. You're going to be able to see a lot more of what the real problem is going on in the mind, what's causing these discontent feelings. Then after our mid-morning break, I'll teach the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that you can make either wisely or unwisely. That's going to lead to either wholesome results or unwholesome results. Then after our lunch break, I'm going to teach walking meditation to be able to help you learn this style of meditation. So enjoy your afternoon, and I'll perhaps see you tomorrow. Okay? Sawadee-khap. Namaste. Okay.